Welcome everyone to another afternoon tea with docs. If we haven't met before, I'm Dr. Linda, emergency medicine physician with a subspecialty in lifestyle medicine. I'm very sorry today Dr. Erica won't be able to join us due to a family event, but we are tuning in with another very exciting session here where we are going to be talking about ulcerative colitis and how we can turn the wheels and improve your flares with a whole food plant-based diet. It's so wonderful to see so many recurring faces and so many new ones too. If you're new to us, please comment in the chat below. Let us know where you're tuning in from and maybe what is your favorite hot cup of tea. If you're new to our show, we would like to introduce you to our mission. With our events, we aim to bust medical misinformation and share evidence-based lifestyle practices to help you prevent chronic diseases in a supportive community setting. We host afternoon tea with docs every Sunday at 5 p.m. UK time, where you can connect with world-renowned lifestyle medicine doctors, coaches, like today's guest, Shamiz Kachwalla. Each afternoon tea event is divided into two parts. The first hour is a live interview accessible to all on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And the second half of our event is only accessible to those who have joined us here on Zoom. This is a cozy, non-recorded half an hour where you can get to know the ATWD community, speak to us and our lifestyle experts about your health goals in a safe and private environment. And if you would like to take your health journey further and you're ready to implement your health goals, join our free membership on our website to be part of our supportive community to start crushing chronic diseases so that you can too live a long and fulfilling life. Today, we are speaking to Shamiz Kachwalla about his journey with ulcerative colitis, and I would like to introduce you to his story and his background if you haven't met him before. Shamiz was diagnosed with colitis whilst he was teaching English in Japan in 2012. We will find out more about his journey from diagnosis to healing and how both diet and mindset played a huge role in his recovery. He's a certified holistic health and natural healing counselor from the Vibrant Health and Wealth Academy. He provides education and coaching to help clients transition to a healthier lifestyle, which also has the added benefit of assisting the body to reach its ideal weight. High Carb Health's aim is to give people realistic advice on how to get healthy and reverse illness via scientifically proven nutrition-based approach to healing the body. Our goal is to provide a long-term lasting solution, and they do not believe in quick fixes, and their approach is far more effective in promoting health and preventing disease than prescription drugs, surgery, vitamin and herbal supplementation and genetic manipulation. We are going back to basics here, right? They are based in Auckland, New Zealand, and their specialty is digestive health, especially assisting with the healing of ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. They have had first-hand experience at healing ulcerative colitis. Shamiz Kachwalla is the co-founder, and he unfortunately suffered from this condition in 2012 and was told he would be on medications for life. Then he found the magic of a whole food plant-based diet and how it can be very helpful for assisting ulcerative colitis and other inflammatory diseases. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Linda. I am very, very happy to be here and to share my story so that, you know, someone out there could potentially get inspired and obviously take what I have to say on board and maybe change their own life as well, just like I did. So I'm very excited to share my story.
And I must say, thank you so much for waking up 3 o'clock in the morning to join us, 4 o'clock your time. I'm not very proud of this because we know that sleep is really important for inflammation, to prevent inflammation. And now I just caused you to wake up too early for this show. So thanks again for joining us at this time.
No problem. I was prepared. So I slept early and got a good night's sleep anyway. And yeah, I did a half marathon yesterday. So feeling pretty good.
Amazing. Congratulations. And how did the run go? Did you feel good?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually got my personal best, which is around 1 hour 42. It was a training run. So I'm currently training for a marathon at the moment. So this was part of my program, and I did about 26 kilometers. And I was pretty happy with that. So it's going well.
Wow, congrats. That's a really good time as well. It does seem like a whole food plant-based diet is giving you the energy to train for a marathon. That's really impressive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you really do have a very impressive story. And we were talking before that it is a very personal story to me as well, because we went through very similar experiences through the medical um, well, problems, as well as how we have found the healing through a whole food plant-based diet and other pillars. And so I would love to share your story, and do let us know, where did it all start?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I've said this story quite a few times, and it's something that I want to share a lot because I think there's a solution here, and I think it's very easy to disregard diet and lifestyle, and in the IBD community, it's never really talked about. So I think our voices need to be heard, and it's just great to be able to share my story. So yeah, I guess it all started in 2012 when I was actually teaching English in Japan after the earthquake and tsunami that they obviously went through. So I stayed there for about a year, and my life was pretty good. I'd never had any medical issues before that. The only problem I used to have was acne, and that was probably because of the amount of milk I used to drink. I was a big fan of cow's milk, and yeah, so I was living my life in Japan, eating lots of fish for omegas. I mean, sushi was one of my favorite foods over there, so I'd go and get some really really good quality sushi, and I'd eat that and carry on with my life, and no real issues. And I think it was only until I started to get really tired and I started to feel like, hey, this isn't right. What's going on? And then I started to see my bowel movements get increased, and I had some uncontrollable ones a couple of times, and I was like, hey, this is a bit weird. So yeah, I mean, it came and went. I also had a little bit of bleeding in my stool, which I was a bit like, what's going on here? I thought it was hemorrhoids. So I just carried on because it came and went. So it wasn't really something that like persisted until sort of, I think it was around April or May of 2012, after the spring. That's when you know my bowels started to work, didn't work very well at all, and I started to rush to the bathroom a lot more, so going around 3 to 4 times a day. And I was kind of like, hey, this is a bit strange. So while teaching at the time, I was like, I had to kind of quickly go to the bathroom quite often, and was like, this isn't right. So I went to my local GP, and he sort of, we didn't know how to, he was the only English speaking doctor, I guess. And just let me close this. He was the only English speaking doctor, and I was lucky. It was lucky that he was, because I mean, while my Japanese was okay, it was conversational. It wasn't quite, up to the medical sort of terms and things. So I didn't really know what was going on with myself. So he said, "Well, let's get you checked out, and we'll kind of do a colonoscopy or a sigmoidoscopy," I think he said. And I was like, "What the hell is that?" And he's like, "Well, they stick a camera up your bum to see what's going on." And I was like, "Okie dokie." So the next day, I went to the hospital, the local hospital in Sendai, and yeah, the doctor there, the emergency doctor there, like put his finger up my bum and was like, "Oh, yep, your rectum is inflamed." And I was like, "What does that mean?" So he said, "Oh, we've got to do some more checks, but we think it's, inflammatory bowel disease or some kind of inflammation that you have in your bowel." So I was like, okay, cool, well, fix me. And so, yeah, they did a sigmoidoscopy, and I got diagnosed with mild colitis. So, yeah, the doctor said, well, you've got this condition and we're going to put you in hospital for a week just to observe you. And that's all they said. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? So they sent me to the gastro ward. And I was like, okay, like, what do I do? They didn't really tell me, oh, go back home, get your clothes and go get your toothbrush and stuff like that. So I was like, do I need to do that? So they, yeah, after that, I scooted home. So obviously not in such a massive emergency. Scooted home, got all my stuff, came back to hospital, got set up for about a week. And I said, all right, this will be done soon. The doc's got me. Little did I know that this wouldn't be the case. And I was stuck there for another 5 weeks. So eventually, the doctor sort of came to me and he said, right, we're going to put you on some antibiotics because we think you've got an infection. So just stay here, obviously, and we'll kind of monitor you. And so after the antibiotics, it didn't really help. My bowel movements were still very similar. I was getting diarrhea, bloody mucus in my stool. And the bathroom was actually quite far from my room. It was about a 20-meter walk. And I didn't really like that, actually. So I had to, carry the drip with me and take it with me to the toilet. It's pretty hard to do that sometimes when you've got to go. So, there was no real change in the next couple of days. It was pretty much the same. And they actually were feeding me, or obviously they have a specific diet in the hospital, they say, for people with Crohn's and colitis, and that was a half boiled egg. They had some miso soup, some rice porridge, and some fish, some steamed fish, I think it was. And that didn't really do much for me. I mean, it potentially made me worse now that I know, but it was pretty bland, and that's what they said. This was a diet for people that have digestive conditions. So yeah, I just took their advice and did what they were saying to me, and yeah, I mean, as the days went by, hello, little bug. As the days went by, my bowel movements got worse, and so they started to kind of be like, okay, let's put you on an anti-inflammatory drug as well to see if that changes anything. Obviously it didn't. It actually made my bowel movements worse. So I went from 3 to 4 times a day to about 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6 the next coming days. And the doctor was a bit like, oh, we'll see. We'll just keep an eye on you and see what's going on. So then they upped the dosage of medications. I think they put me on steroids. That also didn't work. And my bowel movements then kept going up and up and up. And I was kind of a bit, concerned, because normally when you go to the hospital and you talk to your doctor, they have a solution for you and then you can get out of there. And that's what I thought was going to happen. And I had full trust in the doctor as well, because I was like, oh, they know what they're doing, because they've been doing this for so long, and there's so many other patients around me, that I should be fine. So, the week went by, no progress, and then, the next week was pretty bad. Then I had to kind of call my parents. I was like, hey, I'm in hospital. And they were like, oh, that's pretty strange. What are you doing there? So then I had to just tell them my story. And then because I was getting worse, I was kind of getting concerned as well. And that's when I told them that you guys might need to come over at some stage, because, I'm not doing so well. And at this point, yeah, I was going about 7 to 8 times to the bathroom, and, full of blood and mucus and uncontrollable. So that walk was getting harder and harder to the bathroom too. And it was tough, and this was just the beginning of what I went through. So as the weeks went by, yeah, it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And the doctors were pretty much, you know, saying to me, just hang in there, we're trying our best, we're doing what we can to see what's wrong with you, doing all these sorts of tests and making sure, my blood tests are okay and things like that. So they would constantly kind of monitoring me and making sure that everything was okay. Steroids went up to I think about 80 mg. And there was no real kind of end in sight for me. I kept getting worse, and my body was actually getting a lot weaker. And I actually, in the end, lost around 30 kilos. I think it was at this point, 2.5 weeks in, it was around 15 kilos, and I wasn't actually feeling that good. And I was like, this is kind of a bit strange. I've gone to hospital, it wasn't too bad. I'm getting much worse. And so that's when I said to my parents, you guys got to come. I can't do this by myself anymore, and I need your support. And by that time, I was going about 10 to 15 times a day as well. And that bathroom walk was getting way too much for me. And I had a few accidents as well, and that wasn't very nice. And obviously, being in the hospital, having to share everything, so showers and toilets and everything, it was actually quite hard. And so I asked for a private room as well, which had its own shower and bathroom where I could just walk off the bed. And so it made my life a lot easier. And luckily, there was one available. And yeah, I think just moving on from that point, all, shit at the fan. And I went into a really, really bad, massive flare, and going upwards of 20, 30 times a day in severe pain. I had so many things going on with me, and the doctors just didn't know what was going on. And I was a bit concerned, obviously, at that point as well, just to think, what's going on here? I was fine 3 weeks ago, and suddenly, this is happening to me. And yeah, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then the doctors, they actually didn't know what to do, and they were just like, okay, we don't know what's wrong with your son. We've done so many tests, and his colon is getting worse. So I did a total of 4 colonoscopies in hospital. Really not nice. Going through the whole prep, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I don't know how people can just do it so easily. It's so bad to even take that prep and then clean out your bowels. Even though you're going so many times a day, that prep makes you go even more. So I think the second colonoscopy or third colonoscopy that they did, they couldn't actually go past my rectum because my sigmoid and a little bit of the transverse colon was so inflamed, and it had so many ulcers on there. He couldn't go past my rectum. So it was pretty dire. And they then said, okay, if this medication is not working, if the steroids aren't working, if the Zalzine or 5-ASA is not working, we're going to have to do something here because he's, really, really sick. So their solution obviously was surgery. And, I was in such a bad mood. I couldn't even, speak at the time because I was just so tired. I was so weak, and it's so much pain. I was taking pain medications just under morphine. So not morphine, but something that's pretty close, just under that. I can't remember what it was, but it made me sleep, which was pretty helpful. I'd probably get about an hour of sleep, and that was like amazing back then. And the doctors then said to my mum, look, we're going to have to do surgery on him. We're going to have to take a part of his colon out because he's just way too inflamed, and we can't control it with medications. And my mum said, look, you can't do this to my son, like he's been in your care for so long. How can this have happened to him? And they said, look, we don't know what's wrong with him. And, this is just what, we have to do. And at this point as well, they actually stopped feeding me in hospital because they wanted to see if the medication would work even better. So they obviously put a catheter in my neck, and I was getting about 1,600 calories that way, because obviously in the wrist you can only get about 800 to 1,000 max. So they weren't feeding me solid food, and that was, I think, for around a week and a half, 2 weeks. So that's why I lost even more weight, a total of 30. Then, my mum, she was so strong throughout this whole time. And even my dad, they were there to support me, and they would encourage me as much as they could, not knowing obviously what I was going through. But the whole time my mum was there, she was looking for something online, and she was searching through the internet, and nothing was coming up, and she was kind of panicking at the time because she didn't know what to do, obviously, and the doctors were suggesting surgery, and she didn't want that for me. I put my hand up and I said, please do it, get whatever's hurting me out of me, because I didn't know what was going on, and I was in a very bad state. I don't know if you've heard about the LCAP that they do in Japan as well. It's a very long name for it, but they do it, and they put obviously 2 pretty big needles in your arms, and they filter your blood. They take out the bad bacteria, or I can't remember exactly, but they filtered my blood, and I had to do that 11 times and stay there for about an hour. And that, at that time, it was horrendous. I was going so many times. I was in nappies, and they were trying to find solutions for trying to make me better, but nothing worked. And so one day, my mum was just searching on Google, is tofu good for you? And there's a book that came up, and it was called Self-Healing Colitis and Crohn's Disease by Dr. David Klein. And we my mum was like, hey, whoa, this is something interesting. So she looked at it, and she actually ordered it via Amazon, and it came to us within 4 days. And we started reading through this book, and we were like, whoa, this is quite interesting. This is a very different sort of path to take, and it's going kind of against what the doctors are saying in terms of lifestyle disease to heal instead of medications. So we started reading it, and my mum obviously refused the surgery, which I'm so grateful for. Otherwise I would have been in a position, not a very good position at the moment. So really grateful for her to say that. And we started to apply some of the principles in this book, and it's talking about how to use food as a way of cleansing the body and to heal the body by doing a few juices and smoothies and steamed vegetables, focusing on the root vegetables particularly.
Sorry to interrupt you here.
Sure.
You mentioned that you have shared this story a few times, but I just believe until the hospitals and doctors are not offering their patients the education about a whole food plant-based diet and lifestyle, we will need to repeat and keep sharing your story as many times as we need to. And it's such an important story. You went from a really healthy young man who was, traveling the world, learning languages, doing your sports, like everybody else. And boom, all of a sudden you went into this sick, cachectic patient within a few weeks. Do you mind if I share the picture of how you looked in hospital with our audience?
Please do so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, diet was not mentioned at all. And yeah, I mean, they didn't even think about that.
How old were you? How old were you here?
23 years old.
23 years old, and this was in hospital with the feeding tube. After a few weeks, you looked very cachectic, very tired. I mean, you look like life was sucked out of you. And
Absolutely.
this was after you were already on all the medications, on prednisone, you mentioned 80 milligrams, as well as a lot of antibiotics. And here to note that antibiotics and steroids, antibiotics change your microbiota, the natural bacteria in your gut, which most likely has added actually to your symptoms. And whilst medications are very good and very important when they are necessary, as I am using them every single day in emergency medicine, saving lives with them, it's very important to note here that yes, it's important in a flare-up, but you cannot ignore the importance of lifestyle and diet. As you can see on the next photo, when you have applied those practices and a whole food plant-based diet, you're actually, where were you here actually?
So this was a mountain bike race. It was a duathlon actually I did recently. And so it's a 26-kilometer mountain bike ride and a 11-kilometer run. And so, yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I came 26th out of 72 people. And yeah, it was my first ever race that I've competed in. It's called Xterra. Some of you might know that.
You look so happy and full of life. And how long was this after you actually got
So
to feel better?
this was recently, obviously, but before social media was available, obviously I couldn't post a lot of stuff, but I used to be a very, very keen cyclist. And so I used to ride very often, just like yourself, actually. And I used to be, doing 100K rides every weekend and really getting into the mountains and the hills. And I used to actually go to Thailand and ride over there because the roads are just beautifully smooth and they have lots of amazing hills and no traffic. So that's ideal conditions for a cyclist. So yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, my life has changed completely, and I'll just go back to, I'll speed it up a little bit. So yeah, diet was never recognized by doctors, and the nutritionist actually came and said, hey, where are you going to get your protein from, etc. And we kind of said to her, look, I'm a foreigner, so I can't eat your foods that you're recommending. So we started to do this. My mum actually bought a blender and a juicer in hospital, and it was pretty amazing. She was helping me with that. Anyway, so because I refused surgery, I did go on an immunosuppressant drug called tacrolimus, and it did help me. So I went from like 40 bowel movements a day to 20. It cut it down significantly, but also because of this diet, I do believe it must have helped. And then I started to look up the side effects of these immunosuppressant drugs, and I didn't like them. And this is not something that I would recommend anyone do if they're in a hospital situation. I had to do it because I was desperate, and I actually discontinued these medications without consulting a doctor because, again, they had not helped me. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that if you're out there. But I was in a desperate situation and it wasn't helping me at all. I was getting other kind of issues, lots of other acne and lots of other side effects were happening because of these meds. But anyway, to speed it up, the diet worked really well. Bowel movements came down significantly. And the gastro actually he did a last colonoscopy in the 6th week, and it showed that my ulcers had started to heal. I had a little bit of scarring, and inflammation was a lot less than it was before. And he put me in remission. He said that I was in remission, and we were very lucky to find this information, to find that plants were the answer, because otherwise I would have had to stay there for another 2 months, after going through the surgery, and that's not what we wanted, and we want to get out of there. And so yeah, we obviously got discharged, and the doctor gave me a suitcase full of medication to take back home with me to New Zealand, and I was like, this is not going back to New Zealand. So I just chucked it all in the bin when I got home to my apartment. And the doctor actually said, at the end, oh, finally the medication's working. And, we knew that that was not the case, and we just kind of were tight-lipped because we wanted to get out of there ASAP. And I came back to New Zealand, and the road was not over. The journey wasn't over, obviously. I had a lot of cravings, and I actually went back to eating animal products because I thought, hey, I'm so much better now. I can go back to eating these foods. And little did I know that that was not something that I should have done. And I mean, it actually was a happy mistake, a happy accident, because I learned so much from that. And then I started to actually delve more into the plant-based realm. So this was after a month that I came back from Japan. That's when I started to eat these foods. And then in that month, I got pretty bad. And so it just shows you that, these animal-based foods can really increase inflammation and really give you a hard time if you go back to eating them. And so I thought, you can't do this anymore. Stick to a plant-based diet. And, these are the foods that have made you better. So just may as well keep eating them. Obviously, because of my cravings, because of eating these foods for such a long time, I loved them. And I had to realize that these foods were not good for me. And so I started getting more into the plant-based docs, Dr. McDougall, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Neil Barnard, started reading all their books, and just absolutely amazed at why weren't we told this information? It's very sad.
Chamis, why you are not told that information is one thing, but why us physicians in training are not told this is baffling. And we have gone through a very similar story, both of you and me, and I'm on the other side, so I'm even more ripping my hair out with anger and frustration when I found out that not only that I didn't like my own medicine on a regular basis, but also I'm not providing the best care for my patients by not knowing about the power of food, and especially a whole food, real food diet that is free of preservatives as much as we can, free of junk foods, free of animal products and dairy. So yes, I definitely feel your frustration, and that's why we are here to share this, and you woke up 3 o'clock in the morning to share this story. It really does light up a few fires and flames in our bellies, isn't it?
Well, it's because we've been through it. We've been through it, and we're sick of this. It's happening. I mean, so many people are suffering because of this, and there is a way out. And it's not only a way out anecdotally. There's evidence behind what we're doing here, and that's why we're doing it. Because we know that this is our best solution. This is the best solution for long-term health. And if we want to live longer, then get on a plant-based diet, low-fat plant-based diet.
And you mentioned a sentence that when you went into hospital, you felt like, well, the doctor will fix me and I'll be out pretty soon, right? I think a lot of our patients feel that we are the healers. We don't heal, our bodies heal. As Dr. Klein says in his book very nicely, it's our bodies that heal us. And we kind of forget that we need to support that body with the principles that you are sharing with your patients, as well as ours, the 6 principles, which is a whole food plant-based diet, real food eaten as it was meant to be. I don't know where can there be an argument. Eating food as nature intended be a bad thing. I'm not sure. It's just out there. Pick it up, cook it a little sometimes, eat it raw whenever you feel like it. It's simple. How Dr. Esselstyn and the other doctors always mention, there is no such a thing as a big kale, like big pharma, so there is a reason
there's
why.
No money in it. There's no money.
There is no money in it, unfortunately. And that is the truth. And we have to say it as it is, because we have to help patients to get out of this inflammation that is ruining our lives. I was only 26, 27, and then 32 when I started to become very, very sick. And I was in the medical system, and actually that's what kind of got me sick as well, because it's a very stressful environment. So what are these principles that you have applied besides food to help you, which are very, very important?
Absolutely. So there's 5 things that we recommend to anyone that works with us. So obviously the food, which is the plant-based diet, exercise, sleep, hydration, and obviously working on stress and making sure that you try and help yourself with the mental aspect as well. And it's a very important aspect, especially when you have a condition like IBD or any kind of disease. You need to be compliant, and you need to make sure that you do all these things. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results that you want. Someone with diabetes, if they heal their diabetes and if their blood sugars are fine, they're not going to go back to eating the high-fat foods that raised their blood sugar in the first place, are they? They're going to be compliant and they're going to eat a whole food, plant-based diet, low in fat, because that is what is the best for your health. And you don't want to settle for anything less. So that's why when I eat what I eat, I want to eat to optimize my gut. I don't want to be, I don't want to settle for less. I don't want it to be okay. I want to eat the best. And if you provide your body with the right conditions, mentally, physically, you're gonna see the results. And sometimes it is hard to overcome those cravings that a lot of people have with, IBD. I mean, it's a very food-related disease, which doesn't even get talked about in the medical system. And that kind of is a bit strange because we're always constantly talking about food. We're always looking at food with the gut, and yet it's not even talked about. And I think that's
When I went to my gastroenterologist before I was prescribed medications, I wasn't even asked about my diet or referred to a dietitian at all. I got a lot of scopes, colonoscopies, OGDs, and medication, and then get on with it. I understand the difficulties that we are facing, and we are not taught nutrition, and this is where it becomes very, very important. So let's have a look at the diet. When somebody who is joining us today, what is a whole food plant-based diet, and why is it so nutritious and delicious?
Oh, I mean, geez, there's so many amazing foods out there now. Like, there's no excuse, absolutely no excuse for anyone to say, "Oh, what do you eat?" I mean, like, come on, it's 2021. Social media I mean, there's so much going on, and so many people are sharing recipes. Like, when I went vegan, whole food plant-based 9 years ago, there was absolutely nothing out there. YouTube was the only thing that was kind of there to see if anyone was doing anything, to share stuff. And that's how I obviously caught on to this vegan lifestyle as well, because I started to understand that, hey, the animals are suffering as well, and we shouldn't be doing this. And so, yeah, I mean, food wise, you can eat everything, all plants in the whole plant kingdom. There's 30 odd thousand plants that we can eat, including herbs and spices. Obviously, initially, if you're inflamed, you don't want to go in the deep end and go and eat, all these cruciferous vegetables or, raw vegetables and spices and all sorts of other, vegan junk foods or processed foods. But you want to take it nice and slow, okay, slow. So what we recommend is starches and fruit. Okay, so especially if you're like super, super inflamed and you're going many, many times to the bathroom, you want to provide the body with some soft, nourishing, soothing, blended, pureed foods, just because the gut can be a little bit sensitive. And so if you do blend some foods, you are going to notice that the gut will actually handle that a lot easier than if you don't blend it. And I guess depending on your severity, you can actually you can configure what someone actually goes through and like what particular food they can and cannot eat. And so we have a plan that we've created for someone that is going through, a flare. And generally it starts with some really soft fibers, and then we kind of build it up as they get better, reintroducing foods. Because we believe it's all about addition. It's not about subtracting anything. So you're adding as you go, and that's what builds your foundation. It builds the core. And even if you break a couple of windows, so if you build your house and you break a couple of windows, you know where to go back to, because you've got this core, you've got this foundation, nice and solid. So you're never going to be in such a massive flare ever again if you do all these things correctly. If you take the right principles on those 5 principles that I mentioned. So yeah, I mean, eventually once you get better, and your body is working really well, when you've got all those 5 things covered, then yeah, absolutely. It's plant kingdom is there for you, and you can eat almost everything.
Yeah, so it's very important to start slow for even if you are on a Western diet without IBS. But to be honest, I haven't seen a person on a Western diet who didn't suffer from some sort of IBS.
Mm,
And there's a lot of bloating that patients are already thinking it's a norm, and people living with bloated guts, constipation. A lot of patients are constipated due to a Western diet, which is high on fats, dairy, and meat consumption. A lot of processed foods. Just on this holiday, I just came back and I could not find anywhere where I could eat a whole food plant-based diet. Everything is just fat related,
mm.
animal products and milk and dairy. So when it's very difficult to find the right diet, you really have to look outside of it, and maybe you have to prepare, to go to work with the right food. You have to prepare lunch, and if you go on a holiday, yes, you might have to bring your own food with you, but it is so important that you recognize this, because your health depends on it. Your UC depends on it. Your Crohn's, your IBS, your future chronic diseases depend on your preparation, because we're living in an environment now where very processed foods and animal products are very easily accessible, and even fruits and vegetables are very, very difficult to buy. I couldn't buy any fresh fruits and veg unless I went out of my way to do so on my holiday, and then packed my car with a lot of beans and lentils. So it is very important preparation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if you don't prepare, then prepare to fail, obviously. And it's not that the system is what needs changing. And I love this quote that you've probably heard before, but people are fed by the food industry, which pays no attention to health, and are treated by the health industry that pays no attention to food. So we're going backwards with that. And I think, imagine if a lot of people were told to, make these amazing cuisines with a whole food plant-based diet and create all these amazing restaurants. And, if that was the case, then imagine we wouldn't need to worry about preparing as much. But obviously these days we have to, because the world hasn't changed yet. The world hasn't sort of found out that we need to do this. And that's because I think the system needs to change. And when that does, I think, we're going to see more of these whole food plant-based restaurants open up, hopefully. Well, in New Zealand, 9 years ago, there was only one restaurant that was serving, non-animal foods. And, now almost every restaurant serves a plant-based vegan option. And that's pretty incredible. I mean, I've seen it change so much during the 9 years that I've been here. And, there are some really good restaurants coming up too. So not just, your fake vegan meats and things, because that's obviously another subject, and it's not the best for you. And it's for animal lovers mostly, and people that need to transition. But,
I
we're
think it is.
seeing.
Shamiz, it's very important that you pointed this out about vegan foods. And as a health professional, I must make it clear on the show that whilst veganism and pro-animal movement is very important from a health point of view, the vegan industry with the processed foods as well, they are propagating the diseases just as much, and they're using this marketing opportunity and working on people's emotions to sell their products. And it's so important that we recognize that processed foods from a vegan option is also a problem for flare-ups in UC, especially in Crohn's, where your bowel needs to recognize the food that it's eating. And if the peas are processed so much that now it tastes and looks like meat, I always think there's something wrong with this. So from a health point of view, yes, if there is a need to transition, but a little bit of will and understanding and education, I think, is always better than and going straight into real foods than again going into a palette of processed foods, don't you think?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. That absolutely. Like if it was me, then I would tell them the optimal diet, Obviously some people find it hard because of their conditioning, and like I'm not gonna lie, like it was hard for me to do that too. But I learned the hard way, and if you don't make those mistakes, you may not even learn. But how about we don't make those mistakes in the first place, obviously, and learn from me and yourself and so many others that these foods are not healthy. They're really just for, the animal ethical side, and it's not a health food. So even if any vegans are out there, if you are going to eat these foods on a consistent basis, you are going to start to get digestive issues. And I don't want you to do that because, I don't want you to come to me for help because because I'm vegan or whatever, or because you relate to what I'm doing. Let's not get there in the first place by not eating so many of those foods to get yourself in that position. So, better to stay away, and better to eat the whole food version of it. I mean, there's so many amazing foods that you can do with mushrooms as well. You can portobello mushroom steaks, instead of those the vegan steaks and stuff. I mean, the seitan and all that kind of stuff. There's so many other whole food versions of that you can make, and it tastes even more amazing.
So definitely, if you don't have time to prepare your food today, you will have to have time for sickness. So we just need to, as you said, learn from the beginning what we should be eating. And but as you said, marketing is everywhere. Every single poster has eat this, eat dairy, eat cheese, and then you go out on a holiday and you can't buy anything. So for the first day, I just didn't eat anything. Fasting is good, isn't it? So what are the other principles we are looking at? So we are looking at a whole food plant-based diet that increases your fiber intake. Important to go slowly initially, because remember, guys, the first when you're on a Western diet, you're only eating about 15 to 20 grams maximum of fiber from real foods in a Western diet. So when you increase your fiber intake, unfortunately, your bloating will be worse and you will feel like, oh, I'm actually feeling worse than before. So I will stop, I will hold back. And what we would say here is decrease your fiber a little bit, but continue with it to allow for your bacteria to get used to it, and your gut. So it takes time. It takes the first months or 3 months where you start feeling like, yes, I can digest this. Like with anything, exercise, you're not going to start running a marathon on the first day. And it's the same with fiber. You have to be very kind to your gut. So increasing flatus is normal. Initially, as we discussed, you should start with blended foods, and yes, fruits and oats. Blend it as much as you can if you can tolerate it, and then increase your fiber. And one thing I noticed myself and my patients is texture is key here, because a lot of times in Crohn's, fiber content in like big bulk, like an apple, would be really difficult to digest as the texture is really heavy. But once you blend it, the fiber is still, yes, it's broken up quite a bit, but the texture is much better on the gut. So make sure that you change your texture from hard to very soft textures initially. So
absolutely, and even baked apple is really, really yum. I mean, I recommend that some of my clients as well. Like if they bake it, or if they make it into a stew, it's really good too.
And how much fiber do you think you eat now?
Me right now, because I'm training, I eat a lot of calories, so I'm probably around 4,000 plus a day. But that's because I'm training. It's not because if I was sedentary, I'd probably be eating around 2,000, 2,500. But right now I'm eating about 80 to 120 grams of fiber a day, which is well above, obviously, but that's because of the calories that I'm eating. And
so 80 grams of fiber, yeah? I go about 60 to 80 as well. And as you, I'm training as well for a triathlon now. And so there's a myth, right? That on a whole food plant-based diet, you can't eat a lot of calories.
No, yeah, it's a big myth. I mean, you have to, if you're training specific, especially, you need to eat. Like you need to make sure you fuel your body correctly. And even if you don't train, you're not going to suddenly put on a lot of weight either. Obviously, stick to the calories. I mean, this is the beauty of a whole food plant-based diet. You can't overeat. You can't overeat. Your body will get satiated and you'll be full before you know it. And therefore you won't gain any weight. And even then, it's the right type of calories too. So you can't gain weight when you're eating the right type of calories. And that's 80-10-10, 80% carbohydrate, 10% fat, 10% protein. We're about thereabouts. And that's what a lot of the lifestyle medicine doctors today advise us to eat, a high carbohydrate, low fat, plant-based diet. And T. Colin Campbell from the book Whole in the China study recommends that for optimal health. That's the optimal ratio for human beings. So I've been following that for the last 9 years. I am seeing amazing results. So the proof's in the pudding. Long-term health, you're going to get it if you do all these amazing things to your body.
So what are the other aspects? We in lifestyle medicine, we do advise very similar with a good amount of sleep. So it's very important that if you are eating a good diet and you have gone completely clean, you can still have a flare-up because, of course, genetics are not something that is the same for everyone. Lifestyle is very different. A lot of people do a lot of night shifts, which unfortunately do add to inflammation on my shifts as well. Even when I'm feeling very good, eating well, I do see a little bit of a flare-up of inflammation that shows in different ways. So sleep is very important, right? We need to sleep around 7 to 8 hours at least. And if you can't, make sure your sleep hygiene is as good as it can get. What are the other pillars that you advise?
Yeah, so a little bit of exercise can help, depending on if you are able to do that as well. And definitely sleep is super, super important. It was the one thing that I was getting a lot when I was going through my healing journey. At a minimum of 10 hours sleep, I was getting, and making sure that my body could regenerate and heal during that time as well. And that's what it does when you sleep. All the beautiful cells in the body are working and they are regenerating. And obviously you're recharging your body as well. So that's very important. The mental aspect can be something that people need to work on. Anxiety, stress from many, many things, relationships, family. I mean, there's so many other factors that can kind of put you into a unstable position that you need to work on those things, and you need to make sure that you are able to understand what your body's going through in that situation and figure out, hey, okay, maybe that wasn't right in my life and that's why I'm in this position. Don't blame it on the food, because the food is never the problem. It can be if you don't eat right, but if you eat right, don't blame it on the food. Okay, because there's many, many other factors involved in your life that you need to consider. And we know that a whole food plant-based diet is the optimal. And a lot of people sometimes think, oh, it's because of that, if I ate that or that. I mean, it could be, but try not to think that as much as looking at other factors as well, because you can't just rely on diet to help you. You have to look at everything else as well. And that's why this is such a complex condition. And it's probably one of the hardest to reverse. Out of all the ones that you can reverse, I think IBD is probably the hardest when it comes to so many other aspects to your life, because it really influences a lot of things in your life. And with type 2 diabetes, it's relatively easy. I would say comparatively. You just cut out the fat and your blood sugar returns to your insulin resistance is not there anymore. So I mean, it's a tricky one. You have to make sure that all those bases are covered when it comes to improving your health, healing, and also maintaining your health too. Consistency is really key as well. So if you're persistent, you'll get it, and if you're consistent, you will keep it. So those things are really important. And when you're going through this journey, it's a constant improvement. You're always improving your situation. Okay, it's 1% better every single day, and always remember that. Like, there's no plateau, there's no pedestal that you're going to be on and you're going to stay there. There's always going to be ups and downs, but how well you maintain your health is how well you are in health.
And you definitely we need to take back control as patients, and as doctors, we need to give back the baton to our patients so that they can actually feel in charge of their health. Unfortunately, nowadays, as you mentioned in the beginning, it's something that I see a lot, is where patients want to be fixed. And unfortunately, sad to break it to you, we cannot fix you unless you help us to fix you. Yes, medications are good on acute cases. Yes, they're needed in certain situations, but they can never work without without a lifestyle change. And in today's very polluted environment, polluted food with a lot of toxins, are very hasty, fast-paced, achieving ways, we are putting ourselves second. And we really need to start looking at where can we cut back on those things that are not actually essential for our health, our mental and body's health. So incredible. We have covered quite a lot. I would love to, before we go off to our 30-minute cozy group chat, for those who joined us today on Zoom, could you share with us 3 actionable takeaways that our listeners can use to start their health journey with?
Oh, there's so many more than 3, but yeah, I mean, if you're starting out on a plant-based diet, just be prepared, okay? Be prepared for not only gathering the food that you require, but be prepared for some, uneasy feelings. And you will notice that sometimes people do get worse before they get better. So, okay, so just be aware of that aspect, because it's never going to just be like a magic pill. And like always, that's what we want. We want that magic pill, but we're never going to get it, because you've got to understand that if you're coming from a Western style diet, you have damaged your body a lot over the years, and that needs to undo. And so it's never just going to suddenly change. You're going to have to go through a process of healing, and that can be uncomfortable for some people. So just be aware of those things. Get a blender, get a juicer if you can, get a steamer. That's what I recommend to some of my clients. Get all these appliances so that you can actually cook the vegetables and blend the fruits in a specific way. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see exactly what I do every single day, and so that I can give you some tips and things like that. But just make sure that you get those things, those appliances. What else could you do? Yeah, study. Okay, study is probably one of the most important things to do as well. Do your homework. Okay, don't go onto YouTube. Read some books. Okay, there's so many people on YouTube that are saying all sorts of things. Even for me, don't listen to me. Okay, go and do your research. Read some books. Okay, read all those beautiful books from all those beautiful doctors. Okay, they're right there. I would go run out and get them, but I don't know. I'm here at the moment. So, Starch Solution, Dr. John McDougall, Prevent Reverse Heart Disease, Dr. Esselstyn, Type 2 Diabetes, Neil Barnard, Fiber Fueled, Dr. V. There's so many more. So, I mean, if you go to my Instagram, you'll be able to see some of the lists that I recommend as well. And it's all over the internet nowadays anyway. So also if you have any questions, you can post them. But yeah, I guess that would be my 3 things that I would say.
Shamiz, interestingly, almost all of those doctors have been on afternoon tea with docs now.
Well, there you go.
I couldn't support your message more clearly, because we have seen those are the doctors who have been preventing and reversing disease, and it's unquestionable. Now we just have to spread the message about this really economically affordable and very easily accessible treatment, which is just going back to basics, as we covered it. So thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to go off to a 30-minute live chat afternoon tea session with our guests. And if people would like to join you and follow you, they can follow you on Facebook and Instagram, as you mentioned, under High Carb Health. And your website, www.highcarbhealth.com, is full of wonderful information as well. And they can check out your services. I'm just going to add these tags to our chat here if you guys want to follow him, as well as it will be on YouTube if you're watching us there. Please do give us a like and subscribe and share this video so that we can spread the lifestyle message. And if you are ready, you're welcome to join us as a free member on Afternoon Tea with Docs. When you go on the website, just go for membership. You can join right away to continue this conversation and to help you live a long and fulfilling life. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. We are going offline now.